And is it your conviction that this Syria can survive without collapsing into sectarianism?
Of course, if people, if the international community really wants it and put their efforts together, trying to, to find a solution, a peaceful solution to the conflict, it is possible.
But isn't that the problem, that the thing was created by the international community and is now being played with by the international community, whether it's the West or Iran or whoever? I mean, actually, it's the will of the Syrian people, isn't it, that's at stake here?
Exactly. And as we have seen, the uprising in Syria have started peacefully. It has been, unfortunately, hijacked by the Islamists. It has been, unfortunately, played by many parties from both sides. And this is where we are today. We have nearly 100,000 dead people. We have over 1.5 million refugees. And we have to find a solution right away. A peaceful solution is the only way out of this conflict. If not, we're going to find ourselves in a regional war, full-out regional war. We have already seen what's going on in Lebanon, in Iraq. We have seen, the latest attack by Israel on Syria. This is very dangerous.
Finally, Nasser, do you think that Syria is going to emerge from this conflict as one country still?
Yes, potentially it could. It doesn't mean that it would emerge as a happy country in which everybody agrees with the outcome. We saw that happen in Iraq as well. It was a vicious sectarian civil war, but in the end it held together. Unfortunately, right now Syria is in a place where you have a very serious division that puts one side of the population against the other, but there is a sense of Syrian nationalism on both sides. Both sides believe they represent Syria. Nobody's actually a separatist. Nobody's trying to break out of Syria. Those are all positive things that are going for Syria. But if the fighting continues, as your guest mentioned, more blood is shed, the divisions become deeper, and then you might have at some point the tipping point where this might become something quite different.
Can you see any circumstances under which Bashar al-Assad's what, your uncle?
My cousin.
Your cousin?
Yes.
Can you see any circumstance under which he would go without the shedding of a lot more blood?
I honestly don't think so. If he should have, if he should have gone, he would have been gone from the beginning. He wouldn't have waited until now. Now I think it's very difficult. He cannot go. He will not be allowed to leave even if he wanted to.
What do you mean he wouldn't be allowed to?
Because, as you know, Bashar al-Assad is not his father. He inherited the regime. He did not build that regime. So the people who were around his father are the ones who are sustaining the Ba'ath Party, the generals in the secret services, in the military. They are the ones who are really in control. A lot of people think that it's a one-man show, and I've always said it. Bashar will always be held responsible because he's head of the army, he's head of, he's the president of the republic, head of the Ba'ath Party, but behind the scenes, really the people who control everything are the security apparatus and, of course, the military and other people in the Ba'ath Party.
Finally, Nasser, when you look at the troubled sectarian history of Syria, you do understand why the Assad regime was so vigorously and violently secular, don't you?
Well, secularism is a facade under which you actually promote a sectarian regime. Just because you have sort of a secularism put out there doesn't mean that people practice it. And sectarianism is not about actually practicing religion. It's about when your identity becomes a marker and decides your access to power and access to wealth. And as we saw in Iraq, we saw in Syria, there is the division of power in the country has very much become aligned with a sectarian identity. And as the protests try to change the regime, there's going to be winners and there's going to be losers. And a chunk of the population would see their share of power diminish, and the other chunk of the population that has been on the outside, it's hopeful that it will gain. And that process in the Middle East has not been peaceful. The sharing of power, the transfer of power has been conflictual, and that's what's happening in Syria. And indeed, it's not about Assad. We saw in Iraq that we arrested Saddam, we executed Saddam, the Sunnis continued to fight. They were not fighting for Saddam, they were fighting for their own power and privilege and fear of retribution by the Shiites, and you have the same process here as well.
You've already indicated you think this Geneva Peace Conference isn't going to go anywhere. In the meantime, you've got all these external actors like Iran, the Gulf states, all manipulating particular factions within Syria. What's going to happen?
Well, it's not just that they're manipulating this out of sport. They have vital stake at Syria. In other words, depending on which side wins, it will decide their own internal stability as well as their regional position. So they're really fighting in Syria in order to protect themselves. And there is a potential that this will spread beyond Syria very quickly into Lebanon and into Iraq. It will impact the balance of power in the Persian Gulf. And also, as Syria becomes more violent, more bloody, chemical weapons could be used. It could lead to a very different language of politics in the region, which would not be beneficial to its long-run stability or to global security for that matter.
Thank you both very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you very much.